We're live on Sunday, STL Sunday, 3D Printing Sunday. This show we talk about 3D printing, mainly though about design. And today we're going to be working on the design of a engine style, engine look cover for the front of my Class 1 truck. If I have what they consider a 3D engine, then I get scale points for it, which will help me boost this truck to the point where I do not need to put sleeping bags and firewood in it to have all of the scale points needed. And that is my goal. So that is what we're going to tackle today. We're also going to do something today that I do not do very often. And that is that I'm going to bring in an outside model. And we're going to use it, or we're going to see how we can use it. And I'll get into that. This isn't a model of like an RC part or a download thing off Thingiverse. This is actually going to be a LS engine that we downloaded from GrabCAD, which is a popular website that I've used many times. Here is our Fusion workspace. Here is my Class 1. This is a file that I created specifically for this project. It's just for the engine model. I need to turn my design history back on. But I've got a pretty clean file now. I don't have a ton of sketches in this now at this point because only 2 sketches in this model from some previous stuff. But so that's pretty much it. I cleaned this up a little bit, but I do have some other things that I can turn off. We can turn the seats off. Just trying to keep this model a little bit light. We will need the hood. This isn't the actual hood. This is another one I was playing with and that needs changed. But for the most part, it should be good enough for clearances. You can see I've got the transparency on in the hood. And it's going to be, the hood's pretty tight to the features underneath. So we are going to have to be really careful to try and put some sort of engine cover that covers servos but doesn't interfere with the hood. And we may bring in the other hood just for that reason. We could even do that right now if I wanted. Could delete that hood out. Let it get mad at me for a moment. Whoops. We deleted far too much. That was fun. Undo. Regen. Remove, not delete. That's what we needed. So, and then I'm going to just go ahead and bring in the hood. We'll just do it from body split. That one should be correct. Make it a shaker, more space. Not interested. I'm not interested in that look in a Jeep. That is not something this is going to be, we're going to keep this looking, not that model's not going to do it. I want it to still look like a normal vehicle should. Try this one more time. I need to find the correct file with, I think my front bumper one had the correct hood in there. I have a lot of files for this project. I've didn't break it up well enough at the beginning, but I'm trying to do so more now towards the end where I only have to worry about what parts are in that vehicle. So, hood, bring it in. While it does that, so there we go. There we've got our regular everyday hood that will be in here. I can break the link, right click, and then hit break link because I don't need it to be referencing back to that. We may still turn this on transparent, but that other one had those ribs and everything underneath, and that is not something that I plan to. So right click on the body, go to opacity control, 50. So we can see through it. We have our what the clearances will actually be of this, and we'll kind of go from there. I'm gonna move this over just a bit. It was barely peeking in the window there, but anyway. So the other thing is GrabCAD. If you've never seen it, it's this is the website. You know, it's got a normal homepage and all that, but you can go onto here and just search for whatever you may want. There's even some like RC specific parts on here, but you could search for I don't know, what would you say you wanted? Some exhaust of some sort. Go on here, and then you can see all kinds of different things that people have uploaded, manifolds and whatnot. And there's pages and pages and pages of this stuff. So depending on what you're after, it can be helpful if you just need a little bit of information. And the nice thing about that is that it comes in multiple file formats, not just STL. So anyway, that is the point. Now, like I was saying, I wanted to bring in a model. So I have downloaded what was on GrabCAD. I can go back to it for just a second and search LS Engine. And here you see a bunch of different LS Engine things. Now I've got this not quite maximized to your guys' view, but here's a bunch of different LS engines, from just heads to big supercharged LSX style, which that actually looks like a really nice model. Supercharged and all that. This is not the one that I downloaded, although that's a very reasonable one to have. But the one that I have downloaded, I've had in the past, and it was this version, I believe. It doesn't matter. Let's bring it in and see how it looks and what it's going to take. Let's see. Actually, I can't do an insert derive. I have to do it as I need to bring in the actual file here, which I've got in I created a file, LS Engine. Okay, so I already extracted it because it comes in a deal. So we've got IGS files, SAT, and STEP. We'll see if it will do. I know it'll do a STEP file, so we'll start with that. So we're opening this. It's going to create it as its own new file. Now this engine, if I remember correctly, has a lot of intricate components, things that we do not need, especially do not need for this model. So we're going to need to do some very initial cleanup just to make this thing not be so absolutely over needed. Totally a word. It's early. I have not even finished coffee. So we're just going to start deleting a bunch of stuff out of here because we don't need it. Torque converter, bell housing. We got a flywheel. We aren't going to need these exhaust manifolds either. Or flywheel bolts. Water pump. We don't need any of that. So let's get rid of all of those things. We got a lot of those, at least that hardware. Okay, that hardware is built in. We don't need a starter. There's another bolt. That is, no, that's right in the block. That's okay. Air filter, we also are not going to need. Don't need the intake pipe. Is this in the... We don't need the injector assembly. Things like this, we just have to be reasonable with the amount of detail. Even coil packs. We don't need coil packs. Now, the problem is they are part of... Are they a part of the... No, that's just a similar color. Okay. I was going to say, it looked like they were part of the valve cover. So stripping this thing down, we're looking much better. Pilot bearing, don't need that for sure. Simple head, dowel pins, those are unneeded. Temp sensor, one temp sensor in there. Get rid of that guy. Let's see. Josh has told me, how does Nicole make a coffee? Cream and sugar or just a no, this is a it's a Nespresso, so it's a little thing, mix it there. And then we have a milk frother. So I have nice foam, and this is actually coconut milk. Ah, so good. Oil pan, even the oil pan we're not going to need because we have all kinds of things in the way. We'll leave that on there for now. We'll leave the, oh, I guess the pulley is on the main block assembly. But either way, this thing is nice and detailed. So super reasonable. So we're gonna save this. My national project Chevy LS3 engine. Hellcat Jesse. Let's see. Wouldn't an LS be too much for any Jeep? LSs are pretty common in Jeeps. This is very reasonable. And I mean, even just race Jeeps. So we've got that. Good, great, grand, wonderful. Now, there is a number of things we could do. These are all still individual bodies that we can turn things off, turn those off and have, we could start joining these bodies so that everything kind of comes in easier, so that we could actually use it. But before we do that, let's see about bringing this thing in. So we're going to do an insert. Oh, wait, one thing. Let's do it after the fact. I'm fine with that. Insert drive, Chevy LS3 V8 motor. Please save and continue. I thought I already saved. It's okay. All right, so now I need to actually, I selected the top one, held shift, selected the bottom one, so I had all bodies selected. So, as you can see, this is a regular scale V8 motor. So, what we are going to do is we're going to select all these. We're going to break the link so that it's not referencing the old file. So any changes we make to it don't have any effect over here, whatnot. We're also going to select them all and we're going to group them. Do I have to do rigid group? I didn't think I had to do that. Oh, but these are components, so they're not the bodies in there. Let's see if I can do a rigid. We'll just see if that works. Now we need to obviously scale this stuff. So we did the modify menu, drop down to scale. We are going to select, oh, oops. That's not what we're doing. I selected the little radio button next to the component and that made it all, okay. I don't like the way that was going. That's okay. So we're going to undo the rigid group and we're going to undo how we brought it in because I want to make this as easy on myself as possible. So got rid of all of it. We're going to go back into this one and we're going to do like I was saying. We're going to hit the combine button and I'm going to combine the block and then we're just going to start adding heads. Is head and valve cover one? It is. That, intake, oil pan. Oh, valve covers were not included. So now we've got everything, join, hit OK. I don't know why things are like disappearing slightly, but why is the head? Will this be on your 3D prints? No, no, this is going to be pretty specific to the class 1 truck. So it really doesn't make much sense to put up there. But I mean, this file, like, you know, it's, I mean, we'll see. We'll see what this thing looks like. If it turns out to be something that's somewhat universal enough. See, I don't understand why that thing is doing that. Nothing is being turned off. Let's do this in a weird way. Let's combine heads first. Head and valve cover combined. Head and valve cover. Let's see. I don't know why it's acting so weird. Oh, is that? Oh, look at that. There's valve covers separately and from the. Let's try that. Now let's join. That's bizarre. I hate it. I don't know why it's doing that. Let's join those things. That's all. That's all together now. We're just gonna keep. I told you I don't bring in these things often, but that. Now, like I said, we could have. I must have keep tools on because I don't mean to do that, but that's the dumbest thing. When I select that one goes away. It's still there. Keep tools is not on. I'm gonna turn it on just because. That's so weird. Yeah. Is there such thing as too much detail using premium? There can't, like, every once in a while, Fusion can absolutely act silly. So I don't know why, but Josh, when are you getting Nicole for Valentine's Day? Nicole and I don't really do gifts. We don't really get each other gifts that often. Excuse me. Okay. Now we're going to hit save again because this is all one body now, which makes this much easier. Yes, Mr. Comma D does make one. However, it would not work in this situation. It's much too big. Do I have one in here? I don't. I think I might have one of Mr. Comma D's here somewhere, but it's just a lot. It's just way too big for what we're trying to do for this thing. Now it's all one body, so we can bring it in and then easily scale as needed. As you can see, it's still quite large because we didn't change that. So we're going to scale it. We're going to select it. And we're going to do uniform. And we're going to do 0.1 because that is 1/10 scale. And we're just going to see what that looks like. And it's probably too small, but that's okay. Now let's get this thing moved around. Oh God, that's way too small. Way too small. We're just finding a flat surface to select to move this on just because that makes moving it much easier. rotate it 90 degrees because I don't need it transverse. And we're just going to continue to move it somewhat into position. Now I could move that center point onto an origin and yada, yada, yada. But now the other thing is that this is really way too far forward to have it all the way up there. So we may get creative and get the engine moved kind of back where it should be, and then maybe incorporate a radiator to cover the rest of the front of the servos and things like that, just to make it all better. Let's get this moved down. Like I said, we can tell this is way too small, but we need something to look at. Around the top of there, good deal. So we're gonna hit OK. Now, you can tell it fits between the shock towers all right, but I'm kind of okay if we need to work around or incorporate into the main part of this part of the shock tower. We can go over that, and that's going to be fine. I'm not super concerned with this being the most scale accurate. I'm going for scale points here, like you may have gathered. So we're going to select that body again. And rather than, well, let's not make poor decisions. Let's edit our previous, and rather than going to 1/10 scale, if we go 1 divided by 8, that's 0.125. So we're going to go 125 and then hit OK. We'll see if it brings it back in at keeps it close to where it should be. So this is 1/8 scale. We can move it again a little bit. I need to go up a hair. But we do need to, like, that is obvious. Oh, I'm going up and back. That thing was at an angle. That's okay. So like I said, I need to be conscious of the hood height. So I'm trying to just ease it in to position. Now, the things that I want to make sure that I'm covering are the I need to cover the spur gear cover, which is that guy there. Let's see. So as you can see, it kind of pops through that part of the hood. So we're going to make sure that we're covering that. I do want to move this engine further back, and we are not covering the servos yet. So that is something that we absolutely need to do. I may still go larger with this. I guess we could, it's kind of hard to scale this thing because everything's a little, I guess let's just go with cowl width. 174 millimeters. I just want to do some like super basic. What is the stock width of Jeep CJ 8? I know it's Commando, but kind of CJ8 hood, blah, blah, blah. Height measured from the ground to the top, 1930. The width, there we go. Let's just use that. 1,659 millimeters. It's handy that it came in millimeters, I'll tell you that. 16, well, we can go, yeah, let's go 1659 divided by, what was that measurement that we got? 174. 9.5 scale. Okay, so we're actually not in the most ridiculous of scales. Huh. I am surprised. So yeah, we're gonna have to get creative a little bit with servo, because I also have a second servo that's going to be right next to it and basically the exact same size. So that's a thing to worry about. Like I said, I think we'll get this to a spot where the engine can be moved back a little bit. We'll throw a radiator in the front to help cover the nose area of all of the servos. As far as this, the two big servos, we are going to have to get creative on how to get a surface all the way up there. That is interesting. Not easy. An LS is almost not the best option for this just because of the shape of it. Or we get some of the LS. You know what we should do? We put some of the LS features in here. The LS, maybe even move it back a little bit more towards where we want it, because I think this is still too far forward. We do the radiator, and then we do the new car style shroud that goes over top and covers all of the things. So you get the engine look. You can see the intake, you can see some of that stuff, but you get the proper shrouding of the things to cover up all of the things that you're missing. I think that could be, yeah, look at how far forward. The front of that pulley should basically be behind the front axle tube. So, and the oil pan should be under the oil pan skid plate. That is in the VS410 for a reason. Let's move this guy back to about where I think it should be. Right about there. That is the proper placement. Oil pan under the skid. Front accessory right behind the axle tube. Right back by about the firewall. Okay. And now, the other thing is that to get the servo or the 3D engine points, I don't have to cover the servos. Like that's just other things. So I really don't need any of that to get the points that I'm after. So I don't have to worry about it, but I was just trying to do it for the style. I guess we can just, we're going to hit OK with that position. As we talked, again, it's the nature of design. We talked through some things here. We could make one of the servos just look like the intake air box. Just make it, have a tube that runs right onto the side of it. So, Ryan Rose said exactly that same thing. What about a battery that can cover a fair amount of the space? That's a battery. I think I had seen someone else mention like something about doing some sort of, dual battery look, which is let's find that servo body detail there, and we need to mirror that over, because components selected and mirror plane is the right one. Hit OK. That way we have both servos in there to annoy us while we stare at everything, because that's about what we've got going on with the Holmes servo winch and my. Do I have a Holmes steering servo in this? I don't yet, but I will. So, okay. All right, I'm less concerned than I was at first, which is good. What I want to do is we're going to turn that hood back on. Right there. And I am going to, I think most things in this will be fairly symmetrical, I'm gonna say. So we're gonna select the hood. I hit the bodies to split. So that's up here. Hit that one. Splitting tool, I'm gonna use the right plane. We're gonna hit OK. We're basically just going to do like a cross section, but with just the manual way. So now I can see, ooh, I was pretty tight on my guess there. All right, guess we're using that one. Oh man. Oh, we can break that link. Don't need that referenced. So, all right, well, we're not moving that anymore at all, ever. That is exactly where it has to be. Within a couple millimeters. Too bad turbos aren't giant rectangles. Yeah, I mean, I'm all for the turbo look, but yeah, it's pretty hard to, without coming through the hood, I don't think I would be able to fake a turbo look at all. But again, that's okay, because this is this positioning is kind of fine. Here's the thing: if we want to go the absolute easy route at this point, we just use this top plane as a cutting body, and we just cut the rest of the bottom of this whole motor off, and we kind of ignore it for the most part. You know, I want to add some, you know, to appease the scale rules, the scale rule. What would you, not judges, but like the tech people. They're not going to want to see just this top portion of a motor. They're going to want to see more 3D and depth to it to get 3D points. So I'm not going to just cut that off. What I'll probably do is I'm going to look at how it will interact with everything underneath of it, like the transmission tunnel housing and all of this down here. And we're going to stuff as much of this LS engine as we can into this model. We may even like find a way to get that front accessory drive down into the front of this thing, even if it's multi-piece, you know, so that because it's going to be a little bit behind the servos, but you see how much of it I have in front of this, and I'm truthfully, I'm not running that cover. So I'm going to turn that cover off. Oops, not the whole thing, just the cover. So I've got the motor plate. Let's find. So this is what I'm running up front. I've got the motor plate, you know, my pinion, spur gear, and all that. And that is what's poking through my engine bay. So I don't have as much in the way. And that, I think, is important. This plate here, I'll definitely make out of carbon fiber, because I think what we're going to do is we're going to remove a little bit more of it. I'll use the added strength of the carbon fiber to help support everything. And I mean, we're gonna fake as much of this engine as we can in there to make sure that all of our scale points are easily handled. Yeah, that's our goal. And that's why I was saying this engine model, not exactly the most universal thing, and why it's not probably, you know, this project specifically, as far as downloading and printing this one yourself, probably not on the list of things you are going to want to do. But maybe the process of downloading a file, dropping it in, working with it will be the benefit of today's show for you. Alrighty then. Everything's a little daunting at the beginning. No matter what, no matter who you are, this stuff can be a little bit like, whoa, that's a lot to do. But let's just dive in and start making some bad decisions. I'm going to cut this body up. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to select that whole engine. We're going to select that top, and we're going to cut it in half. But that's not the only cut that I'm going to make. I'm going to make a few of them. We're going to do, again, we're going to select probably the bottom half of the body this time. I'm calling it the body. I mean the engine. It's a body in CAD. So trying not to confuse you if you're not super duper familiar with what I'm saying. Let's cut it around the face of that slipper, even though I'm not running the slipper version in this one, but we're at a pretty similar spot. So we're going to hit OK with that. And I really did that just because that is going to make a separate body back here, this portion of the engine, and I can turn that off. And now I've got this front portion that sticks out. I mean, obviously it's still getting cut by still interfering with the spur and all that a little bit, but it gives me an idea of what's left. So just made a few cuts there. I think I've got some straggler pieces like this guy, which, like let's just remove that. I've got a few little things up here at the top. So let's do a little bit of cleanup while we're going through this hectic part. Can we turn off body skin? Got some structure we can turn off. There we go. These guys, remove those. Okay. What is that's that whole thing? Okay. When you're using a pre-existing model, you're going to end up with all kinds of weird pockets and shapes and just bizarre stuff. Depending on your level of pickiness and OCD, you could literally just about waste all of your time messing with that if you wanted. But we're going to join this all back together real quick. So we're going to select the top body and the lower front one. Those should be really the only two that we care about. And join back together. Now let's see. Oh, so we got some random straggler up there. I don't know what it is, and I don't care, so we'll delete it, remove it. Good stuff. Oh, I think I had keep bodies on again. It's okay. We'll just remove that rather than going back. Doesn't really matter. Now I'm going to isolate. Right click on the body, hit isolate. Gives us an idea of what we have left. Now, I didn't do any cuts for the servo area yet, which, I mean, it seems silly to not do some sort of thinking about it this time. What if we just do this just quick and dirty way? And we do a sketch. We select the top of one of these servos to get us on that plane. We'll rotate square to it, and we're just going to do a couple of big rectangle cuts. I am going to make sure that 3D, I'm not in the 3D sketch plane, so turn that off so it doesn't hyper select onto anything. We're just going to do something like that. And we'll do something down here as well. Now let's throw a couple of dimensions on there. Let's give ourselves 1.5 mil of clearance on the sides that matter specifically because servos wildly vary. You cannot count on servos being the same and in almost any way. They're always different. This side, we're just going to stretch that out past because it doesn't really matter. And then over here, we'll do a collinear constraint just to make sure these two lines are in line with each other. I don't know why that didn't. There we go. 1.5 mil here. Stretch that out past. Now we're going to do a cut about like that. We'll turn this to symmetric as far as the direction thing, because we're just going to like stretch this to the moon both ways. Make sure that it... Let's just go... well past. But then in the objects to cut, we're going to drop that down. And really, we only want body 1,5. There's going to be a lot of these that we need to deselect. I should have isolated and then, you know, saved myself all of this clicky time. But here we are, spending our Sundays together, pre-Super Bowl. Okay, we're almost there. 3 bodies left. There we go. So, now we know. Now we know. This still wouldn't fit, but it's closer. So now we're isolating. What did we cut off? We made a big old cut down there, down the front of this. Now I did cut that accessory up. It's fine. We could bring in all of this other stuff later, separate parts, whatnot. I am most interested right now in trying to make some sort of simplified model to work with, because this thing is far from simplified at this point. Like, I really want to go in and just fill in all of these little voids so that I can stop looking at them, but I'm refraining for the moment. Might be a view angle, but the lump looks like it's off center. If you look at the throttle body at the front, shouldn't it be centered? I don't think that they are actually dead center or something. Or maybe maybe it is off. We can unisolate and check. No, it just wasn't centered. Well, that's probably a problem. Probably? Possibly. Let's see, we can go back to, let's just go to, we're just going to roll back the feature tree. The 2 cuts that we made are fine because those were not critical to anything. Or they were not critical to, whoops. I need both bodies selected. This one and this one. Okay, then we'll set our pivot just on top of a servo. And move it over. So let's try 4 millimeters. Let's try 3.5. Pert near, as they say. Brian sure would think, sir. Have to go. Puppy bowl. The puppy bowl is on? What is the puppy bowl? Okay, so we moved it. Now I'm going to move it forward. That servo cut will dive in. So there we go. Yes, I should have caught that for sure. Thank you for speaking up and making me read it. So we do have the intake centered. Our cuts on the other sides are, I guess the heads are not equal as far as placement, but, oh no, significantly offset, but that's the model. That's not me. It's just, I guess, an LS. Well, that's good though. We can run an intake tubing right down the center now. This stuff all needs to get filled in before 3D printed. I mean, it doesn't need to, but like I got to. So let's turn some of this stuff back on, at least the structure. So we know we have clearance around the servo now. We've got an intake that goes right down the middle. This, you know, the header there. The things that I want to do is that I want to go in and I want to make a simplified style, like the billet LS valve covers. They look so much better than the just regular, you know, standard style that these things have. I'm fine with the molded style intake, you know, be cool to do the big Frankenstein or whatever, but I need a pretty low rise, so we'll have to stay with this one. Yeah, LS is offset heads. Yeah. You know what? I've never had to know that before, but I'm glad that I do now. I've got, so I'm just going to look at my actual model here. This motor that's in here is modeled after a Tekin Rock 412, which is what I don't have in this car. Why did I think I had the motor sitting in this car? Because I'm an idiot. So we're going to do some couple of actual physical, make some Cletus flag valve covers. Exactly. Motion Raceworks. So I'm just measuring off the front. I need at least, what do I need here? Use my other ruler. Fatter. I've got a lightweight motor plate in here, so it's, I mean, I need like between, I need at least 13 millimeters, so maybe 15 would be the smart way to go. And I need clearance for the lock nut that goes on the top shaft. But let's double check what I have. So from the face of this to here, I currently am at 10.6. So we're going to need to do, we're going to do a construction plane. I'm going to select this. We're going to do 15 millimeters. So, and we're going to cut this guy again. Cut with that tool because I need the space. Now again, you could get super detailed and make, you know, cutouts only around the size of the pinion. You could wrap the block further back around and try and make it look more complete. And all of that is possible. And I just straight up do not have time. So right now, later, I still have a 3D design file. I can easily go in and make those type of changes. So we're going to find that little sliver that we just created, and we're going to remove it. We did that by making 2 cuts, and now I'm going to go back in and join those 2 bodies back together. Titanium valve covers with your logo. That, I mean, that's a lot. Oh, damn it. I'm going to, I keep forgetting to turn off keep tools. So I keep ending up with extra copies of everything. So I'm going to edit that last one. Turn off keep tools so we don't end up with doubles. Okay. And we're going to go turn off that plane, which is in construction. Out of there. Okay. So now we've got about the clearance that we need down here. Like I said, I still need, you see that top shaft coming in? And it's right there. I need clearance there. So I can just select the back side of this, which is going to spin me all around. Now, I need to be on the center there, which the easiest way for me to do is I'm going to hit P for project. I'm just going to find that top shaft back there because it's all obviously concentric, and hit OK. Now I can just turn off the rest of that. And we're just going to do a big old cut, because I also need to make sure that this thing will actually fit. So let's do, yeah, I mean, 15 millimeters is fine. We'll just cut in. Looks like I got plenty of room up there. So we're just going to do a good size relief. Make sure that's all good. Now, if I want to get weight conscious and all, we can come in and start, you know, hollowing out the backside of this completely. Makes it a little bit more difficult to 3D print. The other thing that I'll probably want to do is I'll probably want to separate these valve covers, probably the intake, you know, so that I can print them in different colors, so that this thing has a little bit of different look. But those are things that we just need to get to. Let's turn body back on. So getting there with that. You know, if we wanted to get, I talked about wrapping this thing around. I could probably bring the oil pan back in itself. Just bring the oil pan in from the previous model. We know the scale. Bring it in, line it, cut it, and then just have it hollowed out. Just have it sit along the side there. Super easy. Be a separate piece entirely. That's maybe at least something I'll do, because from the side of this truck, you'll have these inner covers. If I can get an oil pan in there, which I believe starts, trying to see where the, okay, yeah, okay. So the valve, or the oil pan, would have started right here. That'll be the bottom of the flange. I could bring that in, and I could get a good chunk of oil pan along the side of this, modified to fit. We'd have a pretty reasonable representation of what a 3D engine should be. Hide the wheels. That's not a bad idea. It's not a bad idea to hide these wheels ever, because I obviously did a very basic job with them. Okay. Another one down. And honestly, I really don't need the shocks shown. Like, okay. I guess today really turned more into working with a random model that you bring in. So I would make vertical grooves on the last hole to be able to slide it top down. Vertical grooves on the last hole. Don't understand what you are asking there, or saying, suggesting. Not saying it's a bad idea, I just don't understand what you're asking. So let's do a couple of the other things. We do need, like I said, for the most part, this is going to be okay, other than we need to clean up some of the detail stuff. I'm not going to change a lot about it for now, because it's just, we're going to call it kind of one of those good enough. But if we throw a radiator up front, scale points, easy ones. I think we turn one of these servos into an air box. The other one, like, we could do the battery thing, I guess. Battery cover. They're all scale points. They're easy ones. They're just cake to do. For the spurt. Oh, yeah. As far as how it's going to mount, yeah, like through one of those holes. Yeah, make one of the covers separate, or both of the covers separate. They actually, let's just look at a sketch real quick for that. So I'm going to just select that plane. We're going to hit P for project. We're going to rotate around, and I'm going to just grab those locations. And if we rotate around to the top, where art thou? Probably hard to see on the, I mean, it's hard to see here too, but we can turn off that body. Should have done it that way from the start, but it's amateur hour around here. You guys are used to that. Yeah, that's going to be damn near perfect. Perfect locations underneath of those to have a removable cap, drop on. Maybe we'll bolt them on with some scale hardware and just bang. So, yeah. Little 3D engine work. This one, again, one of those things, little bit daunting just when you just open it up and start. But if you just make some progress and you put the pressure of a live video on you, sometimes things don't turn out so terrible. So I'm not going to make that cut yet. I just wanted to do that for my own knowledge. There's 100 ways better that could have been done to check, but like I said, live video. One thing you guys rarely know is that when I sit here and draw, I'm oftentimes sitting Indian style, like a child. I also don't think I'm supposed to say that anymore. I'm sitting crisscross applesauce, as the kids say. Which I had no idea that was a thing. Okay. It's early. Wait, we're only an hour in, and we have something that, in reality, I could actually just be super lazy, throw this in the 3D printer, and damn near drop this thing in. So, you know, not bad for an hour. Not too shibby. Let's see, if you're going for scale points, put the coils back on. Use servos for air boxes. Battery on the firewall. Battery on the firewall, you know what? That's another just super easy scale point. Like, I'm definitely not putting the coils back on. Those things are way too tiny. Old school 350, non-LS would be better? Never. Old school 350 is never better than an LS. Fight me. These are infinitely better. Infinitely cooler. Just saying. Let's work on the radiator first. First, radiator, and then, so I'm just selecting the front of that servo, and then I'm going to offset 2 whole millimeters. Any chance I would design a gas pump nozzle? Gas pump nozzle? I did a gas pump with a nozzle, I think, and I think it's already on my Thingiverse. Or do you mean a filler, like a filler thing? Please elaborate. Stop, collaborate, and listen. Ice is back with a... So another thing to think of is that these holes that I have in my grill are specifically made for the Vanquish Q series. Which I think I have a set of here because I need them. Hold, please. Yes, I do. Okay. The reason that I wanted to look at that is because the hole pattern, these here, are actually very tight to the size of the housing. So there's very little extra needed on the outside, which is good to know. We're going to be somewhat super generic, which is good. I just drew a rectangle and now I can see that I am crashing through the... Okay. I'm going to project the top of that servo ear setup, so I have that as a reference. And we're going to do... I need to make sure that I have room for screw heads as well. So let's do... let's do something like... I usually use these servo head screws, which are nice, flat, all that. But just in case, I'm going to say these are 1, 2, 3 millimeters of clearance will even do me just fine for a socket head cap screw. What kind of computer am I using? This is a computer I built a couple of years ago. It's a Ryzen 5 3600, something like that. 16 gigs of RAM, EVGA 2060 KO graphics card, and air cooled, not liquid cooled in here. Nothing, SSD, M.2 SSD drive. Pretty standard as far as specs go for like a mid-range gaming PC, if you were to, compare. Nothing wild. Like my editing PC in the other room would be much better suited for this, but I honestly pretty much always design in here. So let's go 14 millimeters and see if that gets into my grip. Perfect. 14 per side. Now, you can see we're ending up with a pretty stubby radiator, but we can probably fix that once we start adding some depth. So that's okay. Right now, let's go with 24, oops, not 14. 24 millimeters of height. That's about okay. So we're going to extrude that out. I'm just looking at I'm looking at down here below it. 8 millimeters is plenty. 9. We don't want this thing to overheat though, so we're gonna go with 9. So that gets us in front of the servo. Now I'm going to hide my grill. Call me Paul Wall. No. Paul Wall. Call me... Who'd Paul Wall say? Call me somebody because I'm giving everybody grills. Paul. So we got just past those servo ears, which is what I was after, because now I want to drop it down and get some more Radiator style. How many cores is your Radiator? Oh, he said, Paul said, call me the Iceman because I'm giving everybody chills. Someone look up the lyrics to that song because it's stuck in my head. Projecting this geometry so I can offset it. Let's give myself, since I know this geometry, call me George Foreman because I'm giving everybody grills. Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Up North RC Factory. That has been the most helpful comment of the day. Okay, so I offset a 0.5 millimeter. Actually, I'm gonna, excuse me. Nah, 0.5 millimeter is fine. That's fine. I was thinking about being more accurate, but unnecessary. Fuel cell in the bed, like heavy. John, go look on my Thingiverse from, I did a vintage style fuel, like a whole vintage style fuel pump. And I think I did a gas filler on that. So you can download that little thing and there should be a file in there. Why? I've got a hole in my profile somewhere. It's not there. I offset that whole thing, so that's not it. Oh, look at that. Why did that do that? I bet I've got that same hole on the other side. Right there. And now this is going to turn blue. It did. Okay. We'll be able to tell when it interferes because it'll turn red. Right there. See, at 3 millimeters, it turned red. So we're going to go -2 is fine. Hit OK. Notches around that post and all that, which is fine. Granted, I don't know how much of this. I may actually cut this brace off to just about like that, because how the grill is going to come down, it's going to be right in front of that. Now that's probably tighter than it will be. I'll give myself a little bit more wiggle room, but I'm going to cut that chassis brace off, and then the grill is going to extend down between the frame rails. It'll give the front of the car a little bit more visual height without having to make it taller. That was kind of why I went that route. So this is something I'm gonna have to get to very soon as far as cutting the chassis off, cutting the chassis braces, and then building the front bumper. So if you use stock servo screws, they extend something past the lip of the servo. That's a reasonable thought. Let's turn off the body skins real quick. I think I've got room. But that's a very reasonable thing, but I'm probably actually about right, pretty close. So I need to detail this thing up a little bit. Let's do a little bit of that before I move on. Now I don't want to go much bigger. I really need to kind of whittle this down to make it the style that I want, because we kind of built it to the size that we need. So we're not going to spend any time on the back side of it, but let's make the the tank style by shredding down the inside of it a little bit. So we'll go 5 millimeter. We'll put a good sized tank on each side. 5 there. Let's go in. Do we need to go in a whole millimeter? Sure. We can always adjust. For effect, let's throw the radii on the corners already. Something like that. Before I do the top, I want to cut down the center just a little so that it doesn't carry our radius around it. Go down 1 again. We got to put a cap on one side and all that. You need a radiator cap. Yep, absolutely. I agree. So yeah, that one is too much on that one. Oh, that was. This is not properly defined. There we go. But I'm also going to go down by, I'm only going to go down like a ½ millimeter. Negative 0.5. We don't need it as pronounced there. Now let's, whoops. Why is that not? Oh, target chain is off. Yeah. So target chain on. There we go. We can grab those two. 45 a corner and add a cap. We could do a 45 on the corner. I have no issue with that. We're gonna do something along these lines. We'll just do that on one side. And we'll throw a 45 on there, even though 45 is fine. Something like so. We're still going to put a radius there. Let's do some, oops. Let's do a 3. Nope, 1.5. That. Now target chain is on. Let's do both of these sides at a 1. We're going to throw a real slight radius on these. What's 1 look like? Too much. 0.5. Something like that. We'll print this whole thing in Galaxy Silver on the Prusa, so it'll look great. We're gonna do we gotta do the whole slat pattern, you know. So we're gonna grab and do a, now this is gonna be a pretty thin feature, so we need to make sure that we think about the width of our extruder, or I'll probably do this laying down. So actually I could do it standing up. So then I just need to make it a layer height thing. So let's go, I'll probably print this at 1.5 or 0.15 millimeters. So let's just go 0.3 millimeter height, and then we'll do a 0.3 millimeter spacing. Which is gonna be, it's gonna be a lot, but So then we're going to do a rectangular pattern, even though we're only going to pattern one way, but. So we've got that. And then we need to, we're going to go down. Our spacing, we're going to do, there's not extent, but we're going to do the actual spacing one. And then we can do at negative 0.6. And then that's the height of our piece and then the actual spacing. So, and now we just need to crank up the instances until, oh, it's going to hate us so much on this. Ugh. Let's see. We need to double that. We're going to go to 1.2 because no, that looks like crap. Let's go 0.9. We're going to go double the spacing between them. Okay. Let's see. Could you just use a fine Sharpie and draw a line? I mean, you could, but they wouldn't be straight and it would probably look terrible. And I would rather have a robot do the work while I do something else rather than, you know, and a robot is going to do it nearly perfect. Whereas I will get frustrated after 4 of the lines and decide to not to. So robots are better. That is. So we're just going to come out by 0.2. That's half the extrusion height. And basically it's just going to give us a texture for the 3D print. It's very slight. It's hardly noticeable, but in the actual 3D print, it will just give us that texture that will break up. Oh, I forgot that side over there. Oops. Nope, not edit sketch. Edit feature. Got him. Okay. So we haven't put the cap in yet. We need to do that. Let's see. Let's just throw a circle on here. Let's go with a. We'll go 3 for now. Or, no. We're going to go 2.5. Oh, wait, no. I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to go 3.5. We're going to do a line. I did a construction line. That's why it's dotted. I X to toggle between. We're going to center it on that. I should have done my line top to bottom, so we're going to delete that. We're going to act like you guys didn't see it. And we're going to recenter. Let's see. I'm waiting for you to build a robot body paint. Yeah. So I did this at 3.5 because we're going to make this a cut like about that deep. The reason we're going to do that is because the little that little red cap that's on that back axle is a aluminum threaded piece, and it is a M4 thread. And I happen to have extras of those. So I'm just going to grab myself an extra, and I'll have a nice little red anodized aluminum cap that'll thread in there. Woo! Fancy. So the only thing is that we gave ourselves all this room and space and made sure that it didn't touch anything, but it doesn't touch anything. So we have to mount this thing somehow, which would be a great idea, don't you think? I can't use the screws that mount the servo in because they're literally blocked by the whole deal. I can give myself a mounting foot area here, or I can give myself a mounting foot area and then do a screw hole that goes up from the bottom so that I can get into it. I also need to make sure that I have room for a winch servo line to come through. So I've got to put a big ass hole in this thing somewhere because I got to route winch line through this. But that still has to be integrated with said grill as well. So that, I also have the front bumper where that integrates. There's details about this still that I need to, well, let's look at it. Let's bring it in. Let's bring in the bumper. Front bumper. Is this a one-off or are you going to produce this? This is a one-off. This is all for one project that I will be so sick of by the end that I will refuse to ever make another. Use a VS410 Pro electric radiator fan for scale points. That's a good idea, Craig. Yeah, we'll throw a... I like that. We should... that's an easy... Ah, damn it. I grabbed everything by accident. And like you said, it's an easy scale point because I refuse to add the rest of the little doodads. I'm not going to run a driver passenger. I'm not going to... So there is my bumper. This fairlead plate is going to change. It's going to get more vertical. It's going to be like a kind of a bent plate. But regardless, it'll probably be, or maybe the fairlead won't be there at all. I might do a simple like welded hoop style on top, which has worked really well for me in the past, and still technically counts as a fairlead. So, so we may go that route. But like I said, I got a winch line that's got to come through probably like right in here. It's got to come out of this winch and then get to there. When a company is designing to build a new RC toy, do they go through basically what you've been doing? Yeah, but things are much more thought out. Everything I'm doing here is so just like winging it close enough. Like I'm not looking at, like, so much of what I've got here is tough for, like you have to look at how things assemble and making sure that this isn't going to block that. And one thing after, like, there's such a huge list of things that you have to make sure that you look at to make sure that it's functional to actually build as a regular consumer. So yeah, F10 portals, aren't those Phoenix portals? These are the F10 axles from the Phoenix portal kit. They're called F10s though. So I'm not going to get too worried about throwing a hole through the middle of this radiator yet until I kind of work out some of that winch servo stuff. So that's kind of still up in the air. I mean, like I was saying, we could just turn both of these servo things into air boxes, couldn't we? Just make it easy. Rather than doing like a battery setup, because it'd be a weird spot for a battery, brake booster, all that kind of random crap should be further back. I think we just do a little split intake setup, and we make like a cover that goes over the pair of them, and that I'll put an H on one side and a D on the other. HD. Super intake. Good thing you're not going through all that. Yeah, absolutely. It would take me even longer. Dual air boxes for the win. I think that is a grand plan. Great, grand, wonderful. So let's do it. Now, I think we make a couple of covers that go over them still, like just a simple little cover setup, drop over the top. Make sure that I give enough room. I do not have, here's the other issue. Let me turn the hood back on. Man, look at how close we are with that radiator too. It's so close. We didn't check that, but I had an idea, and it's a good thing I added that fillet. So we don't have much room on top here to add our airbox cap. Snorkel, never. I have a personal vendetta against snorkels. I hate them. I hate snorkels so much. It's unreasonable how much I dislike snorkels. I don't know why it is. I cannot explain my quirks, but I know there are many. Don't forget the servo wires stick out some on that radiator side. Also a good point. Also a good point. A little notch. You know what? We'll notch the radiator, and then we'll make our airbox cover go over it, and just kind of bridge across. And maybe that's how we attach the radiator and everything. Is we attach the radiator to that airbox cover, and that airbox cover just double side tapes to the servos, because it's something very simple, silly, stupid. So it could easily, or I do have these mounting points out here that I added for shits and giggles, as the term goes. But I could put an M3 riv nut in these on each side, because this will be carbon fiber. So I'll put an M3 riv nut in there. It'll come over and it'll have one screw on each side. Then I don't have to have any double-sided tape, because that would be hokey. This is, all for just something simple and stupid. Hopefully this effort is not all wasted in the end. And what do the servos look like? No need a cover. They're fairly good looking black aluminum servos, but it's still a servo. If I put this cover on them, like, you really will, you'll barely be able to tell anything. So it's just a little thing. No, I agree. They don't necessarily need a servo, but you're definitely gonna be able to tell it's a servo winch when you're looking at it here, and there's a big hole in the side with the winch line and all that coming out. So it's just something. Belts? No room for belts, really. The main drive pulley down here is currently cut up. We will need to do it needs to get cut up more, because it will, or cut off completely, because it will interfere with this chassis brace, which I could probably do some more trimming on that motor cover now, even, to get it somewhat, I don't know what you want to call it, like more in line. I don't know. What am I saying? But that's the point. So yeah, I'll do a cover setup over the top of these two both. We'll make it look somewhat like an air box, something like a decorative cover air box slash. It'll be my radiator mount. I'll make sure that there's that it's exposed for my fancy radiator cap, because you need to have access to a radiator cap. So we have almost no height, so there's very little feature we can add to this. It needs to be a very thin cover over the top to clear the hood. Oh, that's the other side of the hood. It needs to be very thin and to the point. Anywhere where I have room to go down for feature is what I'll need to do there, which is fine. We won't need much. Ken Venturino, thank you, sir, to help pay for your therapy in a couple of years. You're off the hook, bro. Thanks for all you do for this hobby. Thanks for watching. Much appreciated. Okay. So this part of it is going to get, it's going to get lengthy, and that's going to be kind of a pain. We're probably not going to cover that on this video, because that would probably, literally that cover is going to be an hour or 2 hours on its own, which is ridiculous, but it is what it is, and it's what we do for these ridiculous cars. Before we go, since you guys are watching this show, my least popular show, but one of my favorites, we'll show you the project from yesterday, which is not in, what did I name it? Thought maybe I put it in the other one. What was the date yesterday? The 12th. What's the one I modified on the 12th? Or is it in my main directory? I bet it is. It is. Need to move it over. You're getting away from the main objective of scale points and the old saying, keep it simple, stupid. I can't. I know that was the main point. I literally can't do it. I cannot keep myself from doing it. So we had the interior of this with this pan that we vacuum formed before, but if you guys remember, the rear of this vehicle is just wide open. You know, you can just see through the chassis, right? These areas back here, see? You shouldn't see my finger, like, because that's the interior. So go back to Fusion. So I worked on this yesterday, which is, you know, you can see it's just a great big block of material, but that's because this will then be vacuum formed as well. The nice thing with designing the vacuum forming molds is that I don't have to worry about what's underneath of it. I just have to worry about kind of my top structure. And this, let me find that body in the model. Now, I did some things that I know are not the best on this. I don't have any draft angle. So normally with these vacuum molds, you want like a little bit of a taper out. And I didn't do that. But this is kind of an experiment. I put this line in and around, which will make this more difficult to remove because the plastic should suck into that a little bit. But it's like to give myself a bit of a trim line. This will be the surface where this attaches to the body, because this thing is going to, the plastic will suck down around, hopefully go into there a little bit, and then it'll get trimmed along that. Those lines were defined by the chassis. So it'll sit basically above the edge of the chassis. This one is in where the shock is. So that one will probably get trimmed further up. There's no need to have that flashing come down. Now I made this opening here large enough where the shock can move to any of the positions. And I made it so that it's properly notched around all of my titanium work. See that? Goes around and around and around the whole way, all of them. This was actually a pretty reasonably fast thing to do. I cut this. You can see there's a little bit of an interference there, but do you have a homemade vacuum machine? I actually have a commercial, not commercial, a store-bought machine. I've done a couple of videos on it. I covered it in the one of the Road to Scale Nationals videos as well. But yeah, so that's the plan. I have the vacuum formed interior in there, the front part of the interior in there already, and it just drops in and it's so perfectly fit. And then I'm looking forward to that being the case in the rear. So I printed the molds last night. So I've got both left and rights. Now these are basically hollow underneath. That's infill, but at 5%. And I'm going to backfill each and every one of those little pockets with plaster before I vacuum form it, because it's thin, but that should give me the structure. Made this like a 7-hour print for both pieces. I bet I have 200 plus hours of 3D printing on this project alone. And almost none of the parts that will be in the rig at the end are 3D printed. Like, there will be so few 3D printed parts, yet hundreds of hours of 3D printer time. Pretty ridiculous. All that ribbing about his foam interior has led to this. I did go overboard. I agree. But this is going to make for a pretty rad interior. I'm excited. Freezing when I get close to the camera. That's weird. So, plan for that. What do you know? I really hope you stick to STL Sundays even when Scale Nats is over. I probably will, as long as I've got things to do. I feel like those bucks would be faster on a mill versus 3D print. They could be. I just drop a 3D toolpath over it. But I'd have to, like, what am I going to make this out of? It's, I'd need 2-inch thick material. So I'd either need to glue pieces of MDF together, go cut pieces of MDF, glue them together, or I'd have to buy precision board, which is expensive, but easy. And I don't know if they're going to be right yet. Cheap plastic. The problem with cheap plastic is that 2-inch thick is not necessarily cheap even for it. And it doesn't machine that well. 2x4s are cheap. 2x4s wouldn't work, I guess, unless I glued them together, because 2x4s are 1.5 inches by, or 1 3/4 by 3.5, right? So I don't know. In the end, I was able to design this and then just hit send to printer. I didn't have to write a single tool path. And if it's wrong, I can change it and then send it again and continue to walk away. So I don't know. Leave the CNC running or let the 3D printer just print. So yeah, it's like, but yeah. And the problem with wood is that not all wood is great for machining like that, especially like 2x4s and things like that. You need like MDF, like something that's a very consistent type of material. So by all means, I like using my CNC, but I don't know, like in the end, if it would have been even faster. And like I said, this is so easy. I just send it to the printer. Now, I do have to add in the time where I'm going to have to backfill this with plaster, but that's going to take me like maybe 20 minutes. I think MDF would flex. MDF is actually a really good material for that type of thing. It's pretty commonly used. That's the only reason I was thinking about MDF. Do you know what MDF stands for? Medium density fiberboard. I do know what MDF stands for because I used to use it a lot when I was in the stereo world. So anyway, yeah, that's where we're at. Little things, lots more progress. Yeah, sub boxes maybe. That's exactly it. See if I make sense. What is the future of this rig after Nats? I'll probably own it for a while until I'm ready to not own it anymore, and then I'll sell it because I normally sell everything. So, yeah. I don't necessarily hold on to things forever. So we'll get to a point and then it will go away. Fly away. Will your home CNC mill do aluminum? It can do aluminum. It's not great for it. It's loud. It's just not. If I really wanted to do aluminum, I would need to just spend the time, write the tool paths, and do it at work. But I also likely not going to do that. So anyway, this is one rig you should keep. I know, but there's always a next rig because there's always, no matter what, this whole project, the whole thing, I always know that there's things that I can do better. I should do better. I'll learn from and do better next time. It's, I can always build another, and I will. I'll build, I'll build another something. So, I'm just not big on like having to keep it. And the other thing is that I'm not gonna lie, I've spent a large amount of money on materials and tools and all of that stuff for this type of truck, and like it's for the channel. YouTube helps pay for those things, but I can't just always keep doing that without trying to recoup something because it can get spendy, like so yeah. But anyway, hope you guys have a good Sunday. If you're watching the Super Bowl, go team. Go. Yeah, I don't know. If the Chiefs win today, I'm going to give the Class 1 away. There you go. $10,000 isn't much of a joke anymore. It's really not. It's really not. But have a good day. Hit the like button on your way out. Appreciate you guys watching. STL Sunday has done so much better since I brought it back as far as view numbers. But I don't know why. Who knows? Maybe it'll crash and burn still. Could always happen. Hope you guys have a good day. Enjoy your Sunday. We'll see you, Scale News, on Tuesday. Later.